for Andy Know, like I promised about 90 minutes ago. I've prepared a statement, and then we're going to do a couple of questions. This is going to be pretty swift. Today, Grace Morgan and I filed a federal lawsuit against Andy Know for copyright infringement. We are independent photojournalists who, along with thousands of other protesters and journalists, have spent a large part of last year and several other years covering the largest protest movement in American history and have continued covering the fascist backlash to those protests from the right wing. An estimated 20 million Americans took to the streets after the horrifying police murder of George Floyd to demand racial justice and abolition. Lost my place. How very professional am I? To demand racial justice and abolition of the police. American police and federal authorities responded with an unprecedented and brutal crackdown, maiming hundreds, if not thousands, of protesters and journalists with impact munitions, tear gas, heavy metals, clubs, and unknown substances. Citizens, protesters, and journalists caught up in the brutal police response. The U.S. Press Freedom Tracker, a joint project between the Freedom of the Press Foundation, the Committee to Protect Journalists, and other international press freedom organizations, has documented thousands of incidents of press being assaulted, detained, arrested in the United States. I myself have averaged about one ER visit per month in the year 2020 between police brutality and far-right violence. That's not unusual for Portland. These dangers are a part of the job. I am not asking for anybody's sympathy. It happens to a lot of protesters too. What we do ask for, though, is that our footage not be stolen by larger outfits who want to profit from it. That's why we filed the suit against Andy Know. Andy has nearly 1 million followers, and he has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars using his Twitter following. Andy has stolen hundreds of videos from other independent journalists, adding his own biased and often factually untrue commentary and asking directly for donations in his pinned tweet. Many journalists have Andy blocked on Twitter in a vain attempt to stop him from stealing and embedding their videos. Blocking Andy has done nothing to stop video theft and the resulting abuse and harassment from his followers that often accompanies it. I have been physically harmed by self-identified Andy Know fans, as have many others. Researchers have documented over 30 sustained DMCA takedowns against Andy Know's Twitter account. These are videos which Twitter agreed were infringing and were subsequently removed by Twitter. Anyone else would have had their Twitter account suspended long ago for the chronic and blatant copyright infringement that Andy seems to get away with on his platform on a regular basis. This lawsuit is a last resort. We are independent creators and we are tired of having our work stolen and monetized by a dishonest scripter who's never done an honest day's work in his entire life. If anyone else feels they have been a victim of a copyright theft by Andy Know, please know that you have legal options. This is about independent creators and journalists trying to make a living in the face of rampant theft and monetization of our hard work. This lawsuit has been long coming. As a last resort, the fear of repercussion has been too great, but we've had enough. We have put blood, sweat, and tears into videography, while Know presumably sits behind a desk and profits off of it. Okay, that is the statement. I'm going to take a couple of questions, but I am going to be brief. Okay, how about Stephen here? Hi, Stephen. Hey, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. So this is definitely some big news. Thanks for the statement. I'm wondering, in terms of where we could, see the filing, and look through it in terms of the specific copyright infringement that you're alleging. Where would be the best place to be able to find that in terms of like where has it been filed? I know you mentioned federal court, but that's like my first question. I'm just curious to learn more.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for it, so I don't want to make a supposition. There are articles coming out about it, um, and they are much more intelligent than I. So I
Okay,
will
thanks.
say that.
And the only other question about it, I mean, I'm just asking from the perspective of you. This must be, I'm guessing this might be emotional or cathartic for you. I mean, how does it make you feel to finally do this and to submit this? Because it's definitely not a light matter to take this step.
Um, yeah, I feel really good about it. It's like I said, it's been a long time coming. It's a last resort. Uh Seemingly this would shut down anyone else's Twitter. People have been advocating to Twitter support and Twitter safety for a really long time. And for whatever reason, it affects, like, it would result in a shutdown for anyone else's Twitter. So I feel very privileged as somebody who is not only a journalist but is unmasked, to be able to do this. Obviously, there's going to be repercussions, but I'm I'm ready to do it because there are a lot of anonymous anti-fascist journalists and protesters that have not been able to do it, and I just feel like super ready.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to move on. Hi, Abner. Can you hear
Yeah, I
me?
can hear you just fine. I just got a quick question. Do you anticipate this becoming like a class action suit, having more journalists join, etc.? That's pretty much my question. Hope you're well.
Yeah, you too. Um, I mean, it is obviously a class action. I don't know the answer if it is still open to other journalists, um, or not at this point. I am not a lawyer.
Cool, thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye bye. Let's see. Hi, Chad. Hello. Nope, doesn't
Oh,
want to talk.
there we go.
Okay.
Sorry. Hey, long
Hi.
time listener, first time caller. This is super cool. Thank you for doing this. Is there like uh any kind of fundraiser or anything like that? Are you like how long do you expect this to take? I know Ab asked a bunch of stuff about like other folks that are affected. Just kind of like and also kind of what led you to this.
um, I personally have been very affected by by how these things have been twisted. Um, I've shared this story multiple times about how within a couple of days, Andy shared the story about one of my other lawsuits that was thrown out recently about the American Disabilities Act and trying to make it so that disabled protesters were able to protest. And he mentioned that I had photosensitive epilepsy. And then within a couple of days, I was targeted by several far right folks with strobe lights. And so it's always been super frustrating for me to see people attempt to stand up to Andy in whatever capacity that is safe for them and end up punished. And there are so many people, whether they're journalists or protesters, that have really valuable footage. And then the meaning behind it gets twisted or whatever else, and it gets stolen. And it's not always a matter of money, it's a matter of their hard work, their safety gets stolen from them. And Andy presumably gets to sit behind a desk, supposedly in London, and just gets to take their work without any risk to his bodily harm. And protesters, journalists, anybody that's down there on the ground knows what kind of risk they're taking. So for me, that's definitely how I've gotten here. In terms of the lawsuit itself, this is a lawyer from LA that specializes in DMCAs. This is what they do. So that's really exciting to for this process because it's super complicated. It's super complicated. I don't know. Um, it's a topic that's really confusing to me, and Twitter, basically when you file a DMCA, they're really just covering uh, they're just covering their ass essentially when you file that DMCA. Is they're saying like, well, we tried, we gave these people the opportunity to talk. um, One person said like, hey, that's mine, and the other person said, like, no, I have permission to use it. And that's essentially how it goes. And a lot of people have filed those DMCAs for Andy, and Andy essentially says like, nope, pinky swear. And that's where it ends. We get the notice from the DMCA where it says, essentially you have to pursue with an attorney, and you either don't have the funds for that, or you have to unmask yourself to Andy No, which is a pretty terrifying proposition.
Yeah, I saw, and I'll retweet this again on my timeline. But I knew that Travis Brown had done some research on just how many videos has Andy Ngo embedded, and it was over 3,000 videos via the Twitter's embed function, which is, like a security or privacy hole in Twitter because you can block him or anyone, and they can still basically embed your video and then it like links to your name. And then I know people who filed DMCA's against him who have been like, yeah, he's just got this like boilerplate DMCA response, which is basically boils down to fuck you, sue me. I know you won't, you're not going to. And so it's
Yep.
pretty cool to be like, oh, wait, someone actually took you up. Actually, two people took you up on that offer.
Yep.
Because the U.S. copyright law makes no exceptions for weird Twitter features or, hey, I tagged them and gave them credit. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Copyright's copyright. Like, go get your own footage or pay for it like anybody else.
Yeah,
And if he
you
weren't
know,
monetizing it, it wouldn't be quite so like annoying. But he's got his tip jar up there. He's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, like off other people's work. Like, no, dude, go film it
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. And like as an anarchist, like copyright law is like not usually something that is something that would get me this riled up. But having somebody lie to my face this many times, and having somebody physically harm me over this situation and physically harm the community, and we've crossed the boundary of what's cool.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well,
uh
and if,
yeah,
like you said, there's so many other people who have been in a similar position who've been victimized by the same behavior and who can't, they're not in the position to either dox themselves or like they don't live their lives in the public eye. Or so if you've got the privilege to burn, then hopefully this will dissuade him from doing this to other people, and that's good.
yep, my face is already out, you know, my address is already out. Bring it.
That sucks. I know,
We're
definitely know that feeling.
Yep, exactly. So we're you know we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this.
Cool. Thanks for
So
answering my questions.
yeah, absolutely. So I promise to keep it short. So I think we're gonna call it, guys. If we have any more questions, feel free to obviously put it on the thread. There are gonna be some articles coming out about this, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of trolls. There's gonna be a lot of trolls.
Andy's going to have his piece up any minute now in the Post Millennial about how he's in the crosshairs of the woke mob again.
I'm super excited to be called a terrorist and an Antifa leader.
Necrophiliac. That's what he's got going on. Hey, good for you, though.
So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm really ready to take on some stuff, and I hope that some people are feeling relieved and represented. Have a great night.